Hi guys, welcome back to the Wolfpack with me, Dan, and today we're going to be reviewing our first game of the season. We played Arsenal away. We ended up losing 2-0 to the Gunners. We're going to talk all about it, go over some stats, work out what was good, what wasn't so good. So it's all to come. I'll see you in just a second. Sound guys, so before we get started, you know the drill by now. Do us a massive favour, will you? Will you like the video, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any videos in the future. So as you can see behind me, it did end up 2-0, but as I've said there, spirited second half. We're going to go through the game in general in a minute. We're going to go through some stats. We're going to go through you know, what players did well, what players didn't do so well and everything. But before we even really get into it, I just want to say that I really thought we were going to get demolished today. And to be fair, it really genuinely could have been. But I felt we held a decent shape. We didn't bother going into a back five when things didn't go so well. We stayed in a back four and Lamina came in to make a back five every now and then, but very much stayed as a back four. And yeah, there was times where some of the players in that back four were super shaky. You know, we're going to go over individuals in a minute, but overall, I don't think that was the worst performance from Wolves. So let's look at the stats anyway. So ended up losing 2-0 as we know. But as you can see from the stats, as a whole game, I think this is both halves, isn't it? Yeah, both halves. 53% to them, 47% to us. So very even in ball possession. Even though it probably didn't feel like that on the grand scheme of things. I bet in the first half they were all over us. Yeah, 64, and then we come back a little bit better in the second. And that's pretty much the game really. I think the game was the cliche of a game of two halves. I just don't think we had the quality to really impact when it really came down to it. I thought we had some decent chances though. So let's talk about the first half first of all. Actually, let's look at what we lined up like first. So this is how we lined up. So we started with Sarr in goal, a back four of Doherty, Mascara, Gomez, Aït-Nouri. We had a midfield two of Gomez and Lamina as our DMs. We got a further midfield three with some our wingers being Hwang and Gomez, and Bellegarde as a 10 shadow striker sort of role behind Larson. And to be honest, I don't think that when that team came out, there wasn't really too much more you could really do. To be fair, we can't obviously wanted Cunha to start over Bellegarde really, but I don't think he wanted to risk too many minutes with Cunha just coming back from injury, and he did get some minutes towards the end. But when I look at that team, that's pretty much what I would probably have played, to be fair. I do like this 4-2-3-1 that we've been doing in the pre-season, and I feel like up against a different opponent, I mean, Arsenal are absolutely flying at the moment. I think under a different opponent, I think that Wolves would have at least scored today, or at least, you know, done pretty well against another side. I just feel like Arsenal are just an absolute cut above. But anyway, so that was how, obviously, we set up. You can obviously see there how Arsenal set up, a 4-3-3 formation. Very attacking, though. Ben White and Zinchenko were just absolutely charging down here and kind of leaving Gabriel and Saliba to sort of do their own thing. And Partey and Rice were just running the show in the midfield. In fact, I'd go as far as say Ødegaard probably came a little bit more central, really, and they kind of switched around in this midfield. It's very, very, very flowing and ultimately too much for Wolves to handle, really. Let's go through the first half for the stats. So the first half, it was all Arsenal, guys. I'm going to be honest. It was absolutely all Arsenal. For a massive period of that of the first half, Wolves were just their backs were really against the wall, and it was just a matter of time before they scored. I mean, you look at this stat here: 10 shots to Wolves 3. 4 of those shots were on target to Wolves 1. They had 2 big chances and ultimately put one of them away. Let's talk about the goal. So the goal came from a nice bit of play, to be fair, from Arsenal, putting us out wide, kind of stretching Wolves back 4, and sort of making them guess as to who really was coming for the attacking header. And there's a few heads really went up for it from a decent cross from Saka, quite a good cross actually, to be fair. And it needed just a touch of anyone's head really, and it was in. A lot of people have been pretty harsh on Sarr for this, and I feel like if Sarr gets his hands to that, then he's done his job. And I feel like if he's in goal, he's not saving it anyway, because it literally, there's no way in hell, if Sarr's stuck on his line, is he saving that goal from being it would have been absolutely tremendous save. So sometimes I feel like Sarr gets a little bit thrown under the bus really. I don't really think it's one of those goals really that it's extremely hard to defend. It's a fantastic ball into an area where loads of players are going up for it, and to be fair to Havertz, it's a really clever run. Kind of gets the better of everyone really. Leaps up at a really decent time and makes good contact with it, and that's 1-0 really. And to be honest, I thought that after they scored, they really started to turn the screw and everything, and it was we were lucky to go in at half time at 1-0. We had a big chance, as you can see on the stats here. We did have a big chance, and that big chance came from Strand Larsen, basically, from a really good cross from Hwang. Actually, gets a really good header on it. It actually looked like a harder chance it actually looked like an easier chance rather than it was, and he got a really good header to it, to be fair, and David Raya has had an absolute amazing save there, because his whole body weight's going one way, and he somehow swings out an arm to go to the other side of him, and stops it from going in. But other than that, we couldn't lay a glove on them at all. They were really creating a lot of opportunities and playing some fantastic football, and went in at half time thinking, you could just tell the gulf in quality, the gulf in confidence and everything. Arsenal are going to be a really good team this year. We always struggle against Arsenal, to be fair, and I do think that, like we're going to talk about now in the second half, I do think that we grew up, we grew into the game. So yeah, let's go into the second half actually. So I think that's really all we're going to talk about in the first half. As you can see from the possession point of view, Wolves improved quite a lot. Actually got more ball possession than Arsenal in that second half. Shots 6, shots on target, only 2. And no big chances, as it says there. But no big chances for Arsenal either. I feel like Wolves defended fairly well, actually. Especially in the second half. I think in the first half, there was some shaky performances, like I said at the start. And we'll go into the individuals in a bit. But I do feel like we held our own, really, as a back 4. Quite proud of them for not switching to a back 5. Because I remember when Gary O'Neill first got the job, and we played a certain amount of games, he switched to a back 5 after a bit, and although it was proving good from a defensive standpoint, we were struggling to score goals. And I just feel like if you've had a pre-season as a back 4 in a certain formation, I think you just keep going. Do you know what I mean? We saw a really good result against RB Leipzig, albeit a pre-season, but they're the sort of games really that Wolves would buckle under pressure, really, normally, with a back 4 against a team like that. So I thought holding Arsenal to a 2-0 scoreline was fantastic, really. But yeah, let's go over the second half still. So, as you can see, obviously, we talked about a little bit like the possession there. Arsenal still had more shots, and I still feel like they definitely could have finished us off at a certain few points in the game, for sure. But there was a few times where Wolves got into some good positions and started playing a little bit of football in the second half. Cunha came on eventually for Bellegarde and started to get onto the ball a little bit, and the ball started moving a lot quicker, and we started seeing some patterns of play from Wolves. Obviously, it didn't end up in a goal, but Cunha had a really, really good chance. I don't know why it's not come as a big chance really on here, because he's basically got to aim either side of the goalkeeper or set someone up, because Gabriel is giving him the ball basically after a David Raya pass, and Cunha's just basically put it straight into David Raya's hands. He's literally just playing catch with him, which was a little bit disappointing, but nice to see our press at least, you know, like against a top four side, let's be honest. Nice to see us at least pressing in those moments, and I feel like it was a really good press from Wolves that led to that chance. So if we can do that more in the season, you know, those things could lead to goals. So that was a bit of positive play, although it didn't lead to anything. And I think that's really what you've got to say about this second half performance. Although it didn't lead to anything, there were some positives, and I could see kind of in a different game, Wolves might have got a result today, albeit a point or whatever. But they eventually got a second goal. So let's talk about that. So this goal, it's basically come from a quick free kick taken from the centre circle for them, and it's ended up basically finding its way to Saka, and Saka does what he does best. He beats you for pace. He gets you on your weak foot, and then chops in, and before you know it, he struck it at goal. Again, people are being harsh on Sarr for this one as well, and I just don't think he sees it in time. I don't think he expects Saka to hit it as soon as he did, and that's kind of what caught him off guard. It's a really good goal again from Arsenal, and literally holding nothing in against Arsenal at all. They definitely deserved the win today, but I do think that it was a spirited second half. Like I said in the title, we saw some things from Wolves that in the season might prove to gain some points from. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that I've seen us get absolutely tanked by Arsenal. Like, please throw in the towel, sort of tanked. And I don't really feel like it was like that today. There was some good performances out there. So let's just talk about the players individually now. So the players individually, let's just go back from right back from Sarr all the way to Larson. So I thought Sarr made some good saves at some points. I don't think that it was particularly a bad game for him. I feel like people are being a little bit harsh on the 2 goals that he conceded. And I think that there was a few times where he booted the ball out, but I don't think his distribution was all that bad today. And I've said this in pre-season, I do put this down to the fact that he's got 2 speedy centre-backs. Now, we're going to talk about Totti Gomez in a minute, because it was probably one of his worst games in a Wolves shirt, but I do feel like Sarr has a lot more confidence in Mosquera and Gomez to be able to sort of play around and whatever. So yeah, I thought he had a decent game today. When he was needed, he did some decent saves from deflections and stuff that ultimately I've seen him spill a few times. His distribution wasn't awful, and he can't really be fault for either goal really. So not a bad performance. Probably give him probably not a 7. I'd probably give him like a, similar to Doc, I think, like a 6.6, just shy of a 7 really. And then you've got Doc. And I think Doc had a really good game today. Defensively, extremely sound. Not pushing himself forward too much, but had a bit of a professional game for me. kind of seems like he's got a bit of a point to prove, which I like. You know, you've heard recently in the media that he's not been happy with his preseason performances of like before, and the preseason performance and his own personal health performances recently. He said he's really improved and he's taken it, you know, really seriously and everything. You can kind of see that he's got a bit of extra pep to his step, which is good. Mosquera was my man of the match. Absolutely, just an absolute nightmare. To be fair, I think Kai Havertz got the better of him in for the goal, but other than that, he was just all over Kai Havertz like a rash, to a point that he had him round her throat at one point, and it looked like a scene from 50 Shades of Grey, which I'm sure he enjoyed lots. I just think that this guy, he's aggressive, but he's aggressive in a clever way. That he makes attackers a little bit, you know, a bit scared, a bit of dealing with him, which we've not really had for a long time. You look at the contrast of Kilman to Mosquera. Mosquera today was what Kilman should have been every single game he played in a back four, and he never was. You need to be aggressive. You need to be a nightmare and a nuisance, and that's what he was today. And there was points in the game, obviously, that probably weren't too professional, really, from a footballer. But at the same time, you've got to do these sort of things sometimes to make sure that attackers know you're there. Do you know what I mean? And I thought he was great at that today. So yeah, Mosquera, my man of the match, and I'd probably put him as a 7 if I'm honest. And let me know what you guys think so far. By the way, obviously, once we've done all of the scores, you can tell me whether I'm talking out my arse or not. But it's all opinion at the end of the day. Totti Gomez. Guys, Totti Gomez today. It's really annoying because I've been saying over and over and over and over and over again that Totti Gomez is a great defender. And I'll stick with it. I still think that at points in the game, he was still good enough to hold Arsenal to a 2-0 result. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's not like Gary put another centre-back on for him at any point. He played the full 90, didn't he? And if you think about that, that's pretty impressive, really, to be fair. He's not had to play in a back four very often as our chosen centre-back. And he nullified them a little bit. But the only thing with Totti Gomez today is that on the ball, he wasn't very sure himself. He kept losing the ball quite a few times and a little bit rash in his decision making to sort of get rid of the ball, and kind of, I don't know, sometimes kind of looked as though he thought he had more time than he actually did. And I feel like if you iron that out of this performance, I don't think he was as bad as people are making out. But I would give him about a 5.7. I think that's about accurate. You know, just shy of a 6. Because he made some mistakes, but I don't think it... I mean, it's probably one of his worst performances in a Wolves shirt. It really was, but I don't think it's one of those where you think, right, we need to get rid of him and replace him. I just feel like these little things we just need to iron out, because ultimately he still left them as a 2-0 result, which is ridiculous, against Arsenal. So yeah, could be better. 8 Nori. So 8 Nori at times just looked a bit frustrated that he couldn't get forward enough. And I think that's something that that Gary O'Neill's got to sort of have a talk with him, really, because I feel like he's still really good defensively. Like, he made some fantastic tackles in that second half for sure. Some really last ditch, tackles that were basically world class. Let's be honest. And his footwork sometimes is unbelievable. But I just feel like sometimes he's wanting to get forward too much and leaving a little bit too much space. Whereas I feel Doherty today did the opposite. I feel like he knew the assessment to stay back and be, you know, a bit of a wall really to get through. And Aitnori sometimes he rummaged. I mean, it's probably a Gary O'Neill telling him to do it, so I don't blame Aitnori too much for it. But I think sometimes he's got to sort of learn to stay back a little bit and try and attack at certain points in the game instead of sort of doing too much. But I don't think he had a bad game by any stretch, and 6.5 is probably pretty good for him, to be fair. Joe Gomez. I think Joe Gomez, sometimes when he got the ball and he was able to break through their midfield, he looked all right. But I do genuinely think today Joe Gomez did get swamped by the likes of Erdegaard, Rice and Partey today. I just feel like they kind of made him look a little bit rubbish at times. But at the same time, I feel like once he got the ball to his feet, he did make things happen. But I just feel like, yeah, up against a different midfield, I feel like Joe Gomez will do really well. I just think that midfield was really good for Arsenal today. And just made him look worse than he actually was. So yeah, about a 6 for Joe Gomez. I'd say that was about fair. Mario Lemina, his first game as captain in a Premier League game for Wolves. And honestly, sometimes I thought that Mario Lemina was really, really good. What I really liked about him, and I don't know a lot of people would have seen this, but he broke up a lot of play. So a lot of the times where Arsenal were getting forward and creating loads of chances, Lemina was quite a few times in the way and making it really hard for him. And I really like that about Mario today. And I feel like he knows that role really well, to cut back into that back four to make a 5, and sort of leave Joe Gomez to sort of pick up the pieces and get us forward with Bellegarde in the centre or Cunha once he'd gone off. I think Lemina does a really good job at that, and probably deserves about a 6 points. 6 point, I'd say just shy of a 7. Yeah. And then we've got Jean-Luc Bellegarde. I feel like Jean-Luc Bellegarde, sometimes in the first half, especially at the start of the first half, I thought he was okay, but I still I thought he started to get lost a little bit, and I think that probably comes down to the fact that unlike Cunha, I think Cunha holds onto the ball a bit better. I think Cunha sort of gets rid of the ball a little bit quicker than Bellegarde. I think Bellegarde sort of hangs on to the ball too much sometimes, and I still feel like there's a lot to see from him. I still feel like he's got a lot more to show. Because there was times, I mean, he had a free kick that was a decent free kick actually. If it comes down a little bit quicker, it's probably a goal, to be fair. So that there's things in there that I feel like it's confidence, it's game time, and I feel like this with a few of our players, to be fair. I feel like the more the season goes on, the more you'll start to see these players tick. Bellegarde definitely one of those. And I think he's a good sub for Cunha when he gets fit. I just feel like he needs a little bit more polish, but not an awful performance from Bellegarde, especially in the first 10 minutes or so. I thought that he was getting into some decent positions. Just on another day, I feel like, you know, he'd do really well. Just up against that, as I'm going to say it a lot of times, but against that midfield, he got lost again, like Joe Gomez did. So Hwang Hee-chan, I don't know why, but I thought Hwang Hee-chan should have come off a little bit sooner today. I felt like I just didn't see him enough. I thought that defensively he came back and helped out a few times, which was good. But going forward, I felt like I was always like sort of wondering where he was. I don't know if that's something that Gary's told him to do, sort of cut back and help out. But he just didn't get forward enough for me to sort of create any sort of opportunities. But I don't think it was an awful performance from Hwang. Again, probably just needs more game time. But yeah, another thing as well, out on that one side, I think that I just don't think he really demanded the ball enough in an attacking sense. And maybe we'll see that in the next one. Just something he's got to work at, really. Rodrigo Gomez, even though he's got a 6.2, I'd probably say he's probably about as good as what would I say? I'd say about a 6.7 or 8, I'd say. Just shy of a 7. Just because of how brave he is, you know what I mean? It's his first Premier League game against Arsenal away. And he didn't make that seem like an issue. Like, he got on the ball enough and created some opportunities. I just think he, again, with time, I think he's going to be a fantastic player. And I really admire him for how much hard work he's put on in the pre-season and in this game of football. I mean, to play 75 minutes against Arsenal away when you're a young kid and it's your first Premier League game just shows just how much of a game he must have played. Do you know what I mean? There's some people that could have come on at any point for him, like Podence, Guedes, you know, all these different players that could have come on for him, but didn't, because he was okay. You know what I mean? He was okay. Strand Larsen on here has got a 5.9. I think that's a bit harsh, if I'm honest. I felt he could have scored a goal. You know what I mean? Like, after that, from a very good save from Raya. I mean, Raya's got an 8.1, and you could see that because of some of the saves he was doing. I thought that Strand Larsen didn't have an awful game, to be honest. I think, like, he led the line really well. He really fed on scraps, but what I really liked about him, if you look at Wolves from last season with players trying to feed off scraps, it's just useless. Do you know what I mean? Just genuinely just useless as 9. And you can just see that's his bread and butter. He stays up there, and you know, if you give him the ball or any opportunities, he's at least gonna hit the target or create something. And that's what he did. He created a few opportunities off an overhead kick for one of them. And like I said at the start, in the first half, he's unlucky not to score. A really good header that on another day beats Raya, but Raya just made a fantastic save. So I don't think the 5.9 is very fair. I feel like 6.5 up to a 7 maybe. I felt like, you know, 84 minutes for a new player to the Premier League against Arsenal. With some players on the bench that could have replaced him again. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, you look at Bellegarde, he came off after 57 minutes for Cunha. But you look at Rodrigo Gomez and Larsen, they were on the pitch for quite some time, and they had a decent bench today, Wolves, that they could have operated with. And I thought that he wasn't awful. And yeah, that's kind of the player ratings, really. Let me know what you guys think, obviously, below. I feel like, again, like it says there, it was a spirited second half. I feel like we came out with a little bit more character and a little bit more about ourselves. But ultimately, we were up against an Arsenal team that they just look really, really good passing the ball around. Very well drilled side with some really quality players. And really, that was just too much for Wolves. We're not quite ready, really, are we, for this kind of opposition just yet? But I saw some positives today, you know, and ultimately that's what we hold on to as Wolves fans, really, against an Arsenal side who really, genuinely could win the league if it weren't for City. So we, you know, it sounds like we're holding on to false hope, but I feel like there was enough in there. Some spirited performances from some players, and Another thing that I'd like to talk about as well, just before the video ends, I thought the referee, we did really well today. Jared Gillett gets a lot of stick, especially from Wolves fans. Can be a bit of a nightmare, honestly. Sometimes that in the last season, not even just Wolves games, he was just dreadful, genuinely. And I thought that he was really good today. I don't remember any opportunities or any sort of dodgy decisions or anything really. And I feel like VAR was very fast. It was very rarely used, and when it was used, it was very quick. So you know what? Fair play. You know, credit where it's due from a Wolves fan talking about officials. You know, we're quick to judge them, so let's be quick to give them some credit where it's due, and we have. There you go. But also, yeah, guys, it's finished. Wolves 2. Arsenal 2. Wolves 0. I'm just trying to clutch onto some straws there for some reason. And yeah, like I said, spirited second half performance from Wolves, but beaten by quality. But yeah, if you like that video, guys, do us a massive favour, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. But until then, guys, I've been Dan, we've been the Wolfpack, and I'll see you on the next one. Try a bit.